11th century Persia, the country we now know as Iran. The Islamic world is torn apart by the age-old struggle between Sunni and Shiite Muslims. It's a division about who follows the truest Islamic tradition.
The Sunni believe that they are the rightful preservers of that tradition. They're the party of the community.
Their rivals, the Shiites, support a different tradition that takes its authority from the Prophet Muhammad's descendants.
The followers of Ali, the son-in-law and the cousin of the Prophet, say that the imams, the political religious leaders of their faith, should descend from him.
In a remote area of northern Persia is the mountain fortress of Alamut. It is here that a particular Shiite community, the Ismailis, takes refuge.
They were a small, marginalised, persecuted sect of Islam at a time when it was extremely unhealthy to be any of those things.
Their base is known as the Eagle's Nest.
Alamut itself is a natural fortress. It's not like a Crusader castle that's built with a tremendous amount of science, but it sits atop a natural redoubt that's 300 feet, almost like a sheer cliff. And at the bottom, you've got very deep gorges. It's very, very difficult to approach.
The leader of this small remote community is Hassan-i-Sabah, a charismatic man who demands total devotion from his followers.
One wonders if he had a rather magnetic or perhaps hypnotic personality about him as well, to draw these people to him, despite the fact that he's actually asking them to submit to a very, very harsh regime indeed.
Hassan's Ismailis are facing overwhelming odds. His Sunni enemies have a vast army of 300,000 men. He will have to wage what we now call asymmetric warfare.
He's not in a position to fight back. He's not got large armies at his disposal.
To survive, Hassan has to find something he can do, even with limited manpower. Finally, he hits on a radical solution. He will decapitate his Sunni enemies by murdering their leader.
They're not going to be able to defeat him in battle, so they go in on a much narrower front. They're going to take out the man himself.
At the top of the Persian hierarchy, Nizam al-Mulk is a champion of Sunni orthodoxy.
He's basically a one-man government, and he has made it his work to root out heresy right at the center of the Persian state.
Hassan's Ismailis are one of his prime targets.
He's described them as the pus of sedition. He really thinks they should be expelled. So if Hassan picks him out and if he removes him, he really will be striking a blow against the man who is the real cheerleader against his group.
Hassan starts to train an elite squad to carry out the mission. They're chosen from his most devoted followers, the Fida'in.
The early Fida'in were almost certainly from that particular area of Iran. So these are tough mountain men.
Hassan begins by teaching them how to fight at close quarters.
Their actual personal skills are in many ways much higher than you find in armies today. So commandos won't be so well trained in individual hand-to-hand combat. Because they have technology, people today rely on technology. Then they had no technology, it was just them. They were the weapon.
The key question is how to make the hit, to take out their target.
They could have killed people using poison.
But the victim could take an antidote and survive.
They could have killed people using arrows or projectile weapons.
But there's always the risk of missing the vital organs. Eventually, the weapon they choose is the dagger. Striking up close, you can make sure of a kill.
A dagger gives you a greater chance of actually achieving your aim.
But using daggers in combat demands immense skill. An Ismaili spy infiltrates the Sunni leader's headquarters, watching Nizam al-Mulk's every move.
How does he conduct his life? What's the best opportunity we can get? Where is there a chink in that armor?
This information is fed back to base. With a detailed profile of his target, Hassan identifies what he thinks is a weakness in al-Mulk's security. That weakness is his religion.
This is the only way he's going to actually get that close to him. And he calls on a man to represent a Sufi mystic, a holy man, an ascetic, somebody who normally one would never suspect of misdeed.
A Sufi would be seen as a man of peace.
Anybody who has an air of holiness about them is almost guaranteed a warm reception from a powerful leader of the secular state, such as Nizam al-Mulk. The opportunity to be blessed by such an individual is not to be missed.
Having worked out how to get close to him, Hassan's next problem is how to kill him. The trick is to use distraction. The chosen killer rehearses the technique. After months of training, he is ready. Hassan's trained killer infiltrates the Sunni base. No one suspects a holy man. In the quarters of Nizam al-Mulk, there is no sense of any threat. Everything is routine.
At this time of the evening, Nizam al-Mulk is probably in high spirits.
He has finished his work for the day.
This is perfect timing for the Ismailis. He's much more difficult to actually get anywhere near during the normal working business day. So no doubt in his own mind, he's thinking of the pleasures of the evening among his women.
In the shadows, the Ismaili killer waits for the moment to strike. Al-Mulk is about to be carried off to his harem on his litter. But then, he sees the Sufi holy man approaching.
He's quite prepared to let this guy in and give him a blessing on his way.
He stabs the man, stabs Nizam al-Mulk and kills him.
The distraction has worked. Killing the leader of the Sunnis is a massive triumph for Hassan's Ismailis.
He was a great man, no two ways about it. And therefore, to take him down was a real message. If we can get him, we can get anybody. So you take on the Ismailis of Alamut at your peril.
Over the coming years, Hassan presses home his advantage. He launches a range of terror attacks, which would be familiar to us today.
There's about 25 assassinations in this early period. They really do enter quite a little golden patch or a purple patch where they have a number of successes.
They were prepared to do anything to win. The way that the assassins killed was absolutely amazing. They made themselves appear like ghosts. They would come in, stab, disappear. They changed their mode of operating every single time. Only one thing stayed the same, and that was that they killed by a dagger.
Their murder of al-Mulk triggers the collapse of his Sunni empire. They've proved that their tiny force can take on a vastly superior enemy and win.
They were one of the first groups who used deliberately small groups of highly trained men in asymmetric warfare.
Soon, the Ismailis discover that, like today's suicide bombers, their strategy has a secondary effect. They create an atmosphere of dread.
With terrorism, the fundamental thing you have to remember is that it's psychological warfare. It's not really about how many people you kill. It's about the impact that you have.
It's all the more fearsome because Hassan's men aren't afraid to die.
The Sunnis face a huge problem with the Ismailis because the men that are sent on these missions happily embrace death. And that obviously makes them truly terrifying.
The Ismaili strike force is so successful, their Sunni enemies try to discredit them. They spread stories about a secret group of brainwashed killers living up in the mountains.
They were painted as deviants, as drug users, as crazy fanatics. And in much the same way that modern terrorist groups often get the same treatment, that they're fanatics, psychopaths.
The myth becomes more and more exotic. Both Muslims and Western Christians retell the story of young killers manipulated by an evil leader.
There's talks of potions, promises of pleasure gardens forever. Some of the ideas begin to blur a little, that they must be perhaps drug-induced to have this level of devotion.
In particular, the Sunnis label them Hashishian, or users of hashish. The name has stuck.
This morphed into the word that we use today for a political killer, assassin.
And so, a legend is born. Hassan's special forces become known as the drug-crazed assassins. Some 50 years later, in the mountains of northern Syria, the Ismaili assassins establish a new base at Masyaf. They take over a network of castles to protect their growing community. The Grand Master of the assassins in the Holy Land is Rashid al-Din Sinan, a charismatic leader.
He's got a personality not dissimilar to that of Hassan-i-Sabah, the first great Grand Master. Again, hypnotic, also very engaging, erudite, highly intelligent, very intellectual, but also a paranormal feeling about him. He's supernatural, he's more than this world.
There is enormous devotion and obedience to him. If he tells one of his followers to go and take somebody out to kill them, then they will certainly obey his commands.
Caught between the Sunni Muslims and the Christian Crusaders, Sinan decides to target the man he sees as his biggest threat, the leader of the Sunnis. Saladin the Great is the finest warrior of his age. He has won a string of victories against the Crusaders.
He wants to draw the Near East together, Egypt, Syria, northern Iraq, under his rule.
He is also a fanatical champion of the Sunnis.
He is incredibly orthodox as a Sunni. We know that he carried out crucifixions of what are unorthodox or heretical thinkers.
Saladin is a deadly menace to the Ismaili assassins. He is now #1 on their hit list. After weeks of training, the assassins have one final problem to solve: how to infiltrate Saladin's camp. It's likely they go in disguised as soldiers.
They were very, very good at doing this. I mean, they were able to get people into the most trusted positions because they blended in. They did not seem like a threat. They did not seem like an outsider. "200 miles north of the assassins' territory, Saladin is on campaign. He has no reason to fear a personal attack. He is relaxing in his tent on the day chosen for the strike. The assassins make their move. But the bodyguards prove too strong. For Sinan, it's a setback, not a complete disaster. He's at least shown his enemy he is coming to get him. It gives him the upper hand in the psychological battle with Saladin. Sign #1, the great Sunni champion starts wearing body armor 24 hours a day. Saladin knows the assassins never give up. Up in the mountains, Sinan bides his time. His next move is to insert a sleeper cell.
The Ismailis are quite prepared to wait. They're quite prepared to put in sleepers, as we might call them. They're quite prepared to wait a great deal of time until it's politically required.
2 years later, Saladin is again on campaign in northern Syria. He's unaware the assassins have secretly inserted an agent within his own bodyguard. Only Saladin's body armor saves him. The great warlord can no longer tolerate this threat. He decides to take the attack to the assassins. Saladin lays siege to Sinan's castle at Masyaf. He is determined to eradicate the assassins once and for all. Cut off and surrounded, Sinan is now in real trouble. Even killing Saladin might not save the Ismailis. He needs to make the Sunni leader take his army away. Sinan has to come up with a completely different plan.
Sinan has realized something. At this stage, what he can see is it's going to be more effective for him to engage just a little bit with this sultan.
Sinan is going to apply psychological pressure. Legend has it that Sinan himself creeps silently into Saladin's camp and leaves him a note with the assassin's calling card, a dagger.
What you wanted to do, ideally, was intimidate them. The message is very clear, you know, we can get you. We can get you whenever we want.
The note reads, "Death holds no fear for the Fidayeen. I will defeat you from within your own ranks."
The note is truly chilling because he's telling Saladin, you may threaten us with death, you may threaten us with extermination. You're threatening us with the very thing that we actually embrace. You're threatening us with something that holds absolutely no fear for us whatsoever.
Sinan's scare tactic works. Saladin agrees to open negotiations.
Sinan has made a huge psychological dent into Saladin here.
Now, he sets up his final trick. He briefs an emissary with a strong message for Saladin.
We're not going away. We're indestructible. You'll have to deal with us.
Sinan makes it clear this is a message for Saladin alone. The emissary makes his way to Saladin's camp. He insists that he must speak to the Sultan in private.
The negotiator says, this is just for your ears, not for anyone else. And Saladin dispatches everyone else except for his two most trusted bodyguards.
The emissary again pushes him and says, no, this is just for you. Why do you allow these two men to stay?
Saladin replies, I trust these men as my sons. Whatever you can tell me, you can tell them, they won't leave.
The emissary then plays Sinan's trump card.
He turns to the bodyguards and he says, if I order you now to strike this man down, will you do it?
For Saladin, it's a shattering moment. His most trusted bodyguards are revealed to be assassins.
They're sleeper agents who've been implanted in his organization for years. And right now, if ordered, they will kill him. Now, that doesn't happen. The negotiator's just making a point. We can kill you. You trust these people more than anyone else in your whole entourage, and they are actually the assassins. And if these guys can be the assassins, who else might be the assassins?
The psychological warfare works. Saladin lifts the siege, and Sinan's assassins are safe again. 100 miles to the north, the Crusaders still hold the port of Tyre. It is here that a new threat to the assassins is emerging. Tyre's ruler is an ambitious and ruthless Crusader baron, Conrad of Montferrat.
He's part of a crusading dynasty. He's there for life, and he's there to expand his lands. He is a real problem.
There's every potential for Conrad to become to the Christians what Saladin had become to the Muslims.
He's clearly a powerful figure, a dynamic figure, somebody whom you would need to be aware of.
And Conrad has already made enemies of the assassins.
There's a story that an assassin's ship arrives at the port of Tyre, and Conrad has the goods confiscated and the crew taken prisoner. And Sinan says, "You should return these things to me and release the people." And twice Conrad says no. Saying no to Sinan is potentially quite dangerous. I think it means that your card is marked.
And then they strike. Conrad of Montferrat is dead.
This was a very convenient guy to kill, and there were a lot of people who benefited from it. But exactly who instigated it, who wanted it, who endorsed it, we don't know. What we do know is that the assassins would not have killed him if they felt it went against their interests.
Sinan tells no one the true story. It only enhances the myth of the assassins. The assassination of Conrad of Montferrat will be his greatest triumph. Within a year, Sinan is dead. The assassins' exploits in Persia and the Holy Land ensure the survival of the Ismaili faith.
This is a community and an idea that survives for nearly 2 centuries against overwhelming odds.
After many setbacks, Ismailis continue to thrive around the world. This is the legacy of the assassins, who resisted their most powerful enemies for so long.
Islam, I said that it came to India through peers and dais and missionaries. One of the dais, that is a very famous dai, his name is Pir Sadruddin al-Husseini. He came from Khorasan in Iran. He was instructed to come by the Ismaili Imam. See, today, the Ismaili Imam is number 49. His name is His Royal Highness Prince Karim Aga Khan, number 4. In those days, 15th century, there was the Ismaili Imam. His instructions to Pir Sadruddin was to go to the subcontinent and convert those people to Ismailis. Pir Sadruddin went to India. He went to 2 or 3 places. He went to Kashmir and he went to Punjab. And therefore, if you go to those places, you will see Khojas who are Punjabis, and you'll see Khojas who are Kashmiris as well. But the community that we are really interested in is the Luana community in Sindh, Gujarat, Kathiawar. When Pir Sadruddin went there, he dissolved and he immersed into the Luana community. he got their confidence. He realized that these Luana communities, they believed in 3 gods, of which the third one was Lord Vishnu. Now, Lord Vishnu came in incarnations. And you see some of the incarnations here. He came as a fish, he came here as a tortoise, he came as Rama, he came as Krishna, he came as Buddha. They were waiting for the 10th incarnation. So what Pir Sadruddin did was something, you could call it brilliant, innovation, whatever you want to call it. Because he had their confidence, he said that you don't need to wait for the 10th incarnation. The 10th incarnation has already been born in the Middle East. His name is Hazrat Ali alayhi salam. Those people who accepted this are our forefathers. What he did was that he wrote Ginans. Ginans are mystical hymns. And the famous one he wrote is the Das Avatar, the 10th incarnation. He gave these people who converted a new religion. It was a hybrid form of Islam, not Hinduism, something in between called Satpanth, Sirat al-Mustaqim, the straight path. He assembled these people and he wrote some of these Ginans in what is called Khoj Ki script, which is a Sindhi script. And then he gave them a title. He said, look, you people, you are my people now. You are my converts. You are my honorable people. You are my Khwaja. And in time, that Khwaja got corrupted as we normally corrupt things to Khoja. Okay. History is pretty silent from the times of the early Pirs, Sadruddin and a few Pirs later, up to 1800, early 19th century. They had a bit of a mishmash religion. So for example, if they lived in a Shiite community, they would pray like the Shias. If they lived in a Sunni community, they would pray like the Sunnis. It was pretty much mishmash. People did whatever they wanted. There was no standardization there in those days. But then things changed. Things changed in the time of Aga Khan #1, Hassan Ali Shah. What he did, he's sometimes called, Hassan Ali Shah, the migrant in the politest form. He was based, like most Imams were based, in Persia. He had an issue with Fatih Ali Shah, the Ithnashari monarch. There were some problems. In the end, he had to leave to go to Afghanistan. When he,
Imam number?
Aga Khan #1. Yeah, so that would be 46. Okay? So he had some difficulties. He had to go to Afghanistan when he joined the British. After the British had to leave Afghanistan because they were fighting the Russians, they were expelled. He joined the British. He went to Karachi. From Karachi, he went to Bombay. That route, from Karachi to Bombay, he met many settlements which were Khoja Ismailis. He met his Khojas. But when he settled in Bombay, because his movements are really from Iran to Afghanistan to Karachi, Karachi to Bombay, Bombay to Calcutta, Calcutta back to Bombay. Every time he wanted to go back to Iran, he was not allowed to go back. So he had no choice but to settle there. When he settled there, he stamped his authority on his Khojas, on his community. He wanted to take control of the way things are working. Quite naturally, as an Imam, he wanted to take control. But some people, they did not accept. In fact, they said that there are 12 people who objected. A man called Habib Ibrahim. He was a very rich man, merchant. He could pay the taxes tenfold over. Ismaili community pay what is called descend, 10% tax. He refused to pay. He said, I do not recognize Aga Khan #1, and he is considered to be a peer, but I do not accept the fact that all the properties and all the programs should be controlled by him. These people stopped paying the taxes. That led to the 1866 Khoja case. If you do Google, just do Khoja case. It's sometimes called the Aga Khan case. Sometimes it is called the famous 1866 Khoja case. The question was, what these people were saying was that we are Sunnis. We are Khojas and we are Sunnis. Look, we are praying Sunni style. Our marriage ceremonies, Sunni Molana. Our death ceremonies, Sunni. Everything is Sunni. We are Sunnis. In fact, Pir Sadruddin, the one who converted, is a Sunni. And therefore we do not recognize His Royal Highness Aga Khan #1 Hassan Ali Shah. They claim they were Sunnis. They opened, as it's here, you can see this. This is a Khoja Sunni Masjid entrance. So they became Sunnis. So if you go to Bombay, you will see the Sunni, Khoja Sunni community. Okay?
Is what we call Memons?
No. They are Khojas. They were from Luana community. They became Satpantis. Then they became Ismailis. And these people, when Aga Khan came to India and stamped his authority, they said, no, we do not accept. The court case took place. They lost. They said, look, we are Sunnis. We'll open a Sunni Jamaat Khana. They opened their own burial ground, and they went separate.
700 years ago, on the plains of western India, in a province called Sindh, lived the ancestors of the Khojas, mostly all practicing the Hindu religion. Hindus believe in a universal soul or a god called Brahman. Their god, their Brahman, takes on many forms that many Hindus worship. Hindus also believe in reincarnation, the belief that the soul is eternal and lives many lifetimes in one body after another. They believe the fate of the individual's next life is determined by how the previous life was lived. The three most important forms of Brahman are Brahma, known as the creator, Vishnu, known as the preserver, and Shiva, known as the destroyer. India followed a hierarchical system where people were classified according to their caste. Brahmins, the priestly class, Kshatriya, the soldier or ruling class, Vaishyas, the merchant class, and Shudras, the laboring class. In addition to these classes, there was an unclassified caste called the Dalits, or the untouchables. These weren't linked to any of the classes and were considered outcasts from society. The caste system was and continues to be a source of oppression in this society.
There are many sections of the Hindus, they felt oppressed. And now when they saw the Muslims, converts to Islam, praying together as equals, and the Islamic equality and humility attracted them. This has played a crucial role. Good thing about the Hindu society has been that they were always attracted towards spirituality. And the Sufi elements were very tolerant.
This will take us back to almost 650 years in Western India, the plains of Sindh, which is where the ancestors of the Khojas lived as Hindus. They were then converted by a Sufi, or some say that he was an Ismaili Dai, who came to the area and he studied the beliefs of the Hindu Lohanas. And their belief was in the 9 incarnations of the Hindu Lord Vishnu. And they were waiting for the 10th incarnation to come.
Hindus believe in reincarnation. And while they were prepared to accept the concept of Tawheed, Nabuwa, they were not prepared to let go the ideal of reincarnation, that you are born again and again. So the Sufis were very smart. They said, well, we can make compromise. Hazrat Ali is the 10th reincarnation of Vishnu Bhagwan.
When the ancestors of the Khojas met the Sufi Dais or missionaries from Iran, they were moved by the harmony and equality of Islam.
And then they followed this path called Satpanth for almost 500 to 600 years, which was an admixture of Sufism, Hinduism, and this is where the Ginans and the Ismaili literature comes from.
In Bombay, when Aga Khan was one of the princes in Iran, when he lost there in Iran and shifted to Bombay around 1840, for the first time the Aga Khan came as the head of the community, but he's not only an ordinary head, he's an imam. And he began to exert direct control over the whole community.
The Aga Khan, to exercise more control over the community, introduced the oath of allegiance. This is where the dispute started. Until then, those who were Sunnis could practice their Sunni belief and go to Jamaat Khana. Shias could do the same, and the Ismailis could. Now the Ismailis did not have the type of prayers which Sunni and Shia had. They had Pir Dadu, who came in 15th century, had introduced Ginan in Islamic Ismaili liturgy, which contains segments of dua from the Shia, it's Nashri dua, but it was deviating. So a court case came up in 1866, and the first group professing to be Sunni separated to form the Barbai Jamaat or the Sunni Jamaat. And under this court case, the Aga Khan in the oath of allegiance provided for that all the community assets would be not held in the name of the community or Jamaat, but in the name of the Aga Khan. So this was a bone of contention among the Khoja that we have contributed towards this, so it should be held in the name of the community. And every Khoja has a right, regardless of his persuasion. But Aga Khan won the case, and the Jamaat Khana and the community assets were transferred in the name of the Aga Khan.
Ismailis used to go for ziyarat. They used to go to Karbala, they used to go to Najaf, but also then he used to go to Iran to visit the Aga Khan. When they went to Karbala and so on, like my great-great-grandfather, and meets the local alim, who tells him that your religion is not very, very clean. Now you have a lot of other things which are not really Islamic. And it seems to have influenced him from what we have been told within the family. That bothered my great-great-grandfather when he was told that these practices are not Islamic. For example, the Khojas believed in going for ziyarat, but not for Hajj. And Hajj is wajib.
Comes across an alim by the name of Mullah Qadir Hussain. And when Devji Jamal was asked to say why had he come to Karbala, Devji Jamal said that I had set out to go for Hajj, but I ended up in Karbala because someone told us that the thawab of one ziyarah is equal to 70 Hajj. And that is why we are here. And he was there with a group of people.
With Mullah Qadir Hussain, they went to see the Marja Taqlid in those days, Sheikh Zainul Abidin Mazindarani, and had conversations with him. They asked questions. They were concerned by the change taking place in the Khoja community after the arrival of the Aga Khan. And the 1866 case and the greater leanings and control and the customs and traditions undergoing change. One of the questions asked was the question of this reincarnation. He said, Ismailis, as Ismailis, we believe in incarnation and Darajah of Imam Ali equating equal to the Holy Prophet or even going higher. So they were told that to think of that is haram. You can't do